we were sold a career ladder. At least I was sold a career ladder, only to find out it's actually a Stairmaster. We're working ourselves to exhaustion. We're sweating through performance reviews, manufactured urgency. Our legs are burning from the hustle. And we're still in the exact same spot that we started in. So if you're feeling stuck, maybe in your 30s or pretty much any age, and you're ready for a leap, maybe you're having what feels like a crisis, a crash out, in this video, I'm going to walk through why you're actually doing life correctly, as crazy as that might sound, as chaotic as that might sound. More importantly, I'll give you the 3 specific things you can do after watching this video to give you a little bit more clarity and some strategy around how to navigate the career. And this is what I've used to increase my earnings, to give me more flexibility, whether it's location, time, etc., in my career, and to just give me a little bit more peace of mind. That way I'm not on the constant career Stairmaster. Hi, my name is Afua, and I started out as a school social worker who's pivoted across a number of industries and roles. I've gone from working in nonprofits, local governments, now I work in tech, to also holding roles such as operations, customer success, launch management, training enablement, and now I'm in change management strategy. And what that means is that I currently assist companies with integrating AI tools into the workforce in a way that actually makes sense. And my through line has always been enablement and workforce development. It's always been about problem solving in this way and helping people understand their value and articulate it in a way that gets them paid. And that's whether it's customers, clients, one-on-one. My goal is to help you articulate your value. Because I've been having this conversation with everyone lately, whether it's friends, clients, or random people at coffee shops. And it sounds something like this. And maybe you can let me know in the comments if you've also said some of these things. People are making 6 figures and they still feel broke. Folks are doing everything right. You're playing by the playbook. You're doing what everyone told you to do. You went through all the different channels, and yet right now it's feeling like corporate and this whole career strategy is ruining your nervous system. Any of these are landing for you. We're going to cover why you feel stuck, what's actually happening that nobody's telling you, and the exact framework to build what I call a career web. Not a ladder, not a Stairmaster, but something that'll catch you and guide you as the future of work changes rapidly. Here's the thing. I grew up thinking I wanted to be a ton of things. And for the longest time, I settled on being a lawyer. It crossed a few major buckets for me. It was prestige, it was money, I get to yap, and the fashion. Come on, let's look at Claire Huxtable, Joan Clayton, Maxine Shaw, attorney at law. I mean, she had a slogan. Okay? So even though I changed my mind about pursuing these characters' careers, I was still sold a fantasy about careers. And I suspect, in fact, we were sold a very specific dream. Go to school, get the degree, land the job, climb the ladder, and each rung will equal more success and more progress, which will then give us all the other things we would want in life. Here's what happened. At least how I've lived and a lot of people around me have lived it as well. We graduated into recessions, and the unprecedented times became very precedented times. And we had multiple recessions. For lack of a better term, the economy was crashing out several times. People are barely getting by, even though you might have a multiple 6-figure job because you're paying off all this debt. You might have a multiple 6-figure job and you can't afford your 1-bedroom apartment or studio because of all the cost of living that's happening. So as we're trying to tackle that, AI comes into the chat. Now AI is rewriting the playbook. And we were just wrapping our minds around the old playbook. And let's not even start talking about if you come from a marginalized community where you had one set of playbooks, you got into the industry and you learned there was actually another set of playbooks. And you're like, oh, I just figured that out. And then now they changed it again. So realizing that the traditional career ladder is actually, in fact, not a ladder, but a Stairmaster. And some of us have been on the Stairmaster for decades. Some a decade, some 2 decades, some more. Maybe you've been promoted, but you're not necessarily progressing. You are getting all these fancy job titles, but not the commensurate compensation. And maybe you're visible, but you're not valued. And personally, a story that's on my heart to share right now is when you get shouted out in the Slacks and the board meetings and the presentations and all of that, but that does not equate to your salary or your bonuses. And I see this daily in my change management work. Because I work with so many different clients, and especially Fortune 100 clients, I see people in the workforce who are burned out, unfulfilled, and who did everything right. We all followed the rules, and the rules failed us. They failed us tremendously. And the worst part is that I think some people think it's their fault. You might think it's your fault. Like you're somehow failing at a game everyone else is winning. I know I thought that for quite some time. But the thing is, everyone is struggling. And some people are talking about it, most people are not, but everyone is struggling. And I want to offer this that I learned in school a while ago, and because it's a psychological term for what we're experiencing. In developmental psychology, crisis doesn't mean disaster. It actually means turning point. The moment where the old ways stop working and you're forced to evolve. Crisis is saying you can't grow while comfortable. And your brain literally needs the dissonance to create new neural pathways. Janelle Abrahami calls it the great millennial career crisis. And exactly that, a crisis is a turning point. And we have to lean into it. We have to embrace it for it to become what we need it to be. And right now, a lot of people are voicing that. Once you voice it, once you acknowledge it, then it also gives you opportunity to say, okay, now that we're in it, let's get through it. And the way I feel about all of this, honestly, is that at this point, I'm sure millennial and career are each synonymous for crisis. If you're currently in the working world and you're not feeling a shift, then I would love to talk to you, but I think we're all feeling a shift. And maybe people are taking it differently, but that AI introduction and how AI is taking over the job space right now is definitely a bit of a crisis. Crisis means a turning point. Crisis means you're forced to evolve. And if we allow ourselves to understand that definition, we also then allow ourselves to crash out if we must. Because it's a wild time. Like I said, millennial, career, all of it equals crisis right now. However, once you're done with that crash out, know that you're in a post-traumatic growth space. We thought the ladder would work. We really believe that because we saw it work for other people. We saw it work for our parents, our grandparents, whoever. But it's not working for us. It's not working. And our brains are recognizing that and actively rewiring itself to see new possibilities as the world keeps changing. The people feeling the most crisis, I think, are the closest to breakthrough. So if you're watching this right now because you're in a crisis, I think you're closest to breakthrough, because what's happening is that we are resolving the tension between who we are and what we do, between authentic self and economic survival, because bills. Can you pay my bills? Who's that? Destiny Shop. So the Stairmaster asked us to perform, to clock in, to hit metrics, to climb. The fact that meetings became a metric, that in an interview, a proper answer to how I would program manage something or how I would deal with something is to put meetings on calendar so we all have synergy, rather than maybe just be clear the first time around so we're not doing all these meetings. The minute that became the metric of this is a good worker, we were on the Stairmaster and it downhill. But our psyche is demanding more, is demanding authenticity, is demanding meaning, is demanding alignment. And the tension that we're all feeling, that is the evolution. So I just want to offer you again, yes, there's a crisis happening, especially if you're a millennial, if you're in a career transition space. I also want to offer you that's an evolution. What's fascinating to me right now is that there are few people who are validating this. Like multiple people are arriving at the same conclusion from different angles. And the way I see it is somehow, some way, every single culture somehow has understood that fried dough, fried flour is ridiculously yummy. Putting flour, sugar, and fat together, and everyone came up with their slightly own different version, but everyone came to the same thing without talking to each other, because I don't think back then they even had pen and paper. But everyone in every single continent figured it out. I've taught career building through my Ananse framework for years. It's how I've lived my life, how I've navigated my career. And if you've been to my career clarity sessions, you've probably been like, what is this spider's web? Why is this spider web my logo? If you watch any of my YouTube videos, you always see the little spider web logo. And mainly it's because I'm Ghanaian and Ananse is a West African spider. He's a trickster who survives not by necessarily his strength, but by being clever and by weaving. And let's change clever to maybe strategic. So he's strategic, he's curious, he builds relationships with folks. He weaves not only his web, but also the life around him. Anna Mackenzie wrote brilliantly about this as well. She called it the career web, moving from ladder to web. So she moves from the ladder, squiggly career to web. Myleik Teal says sideways is also progress. So we have Anna Mackenzie talking about the career web. We have Myleik talking about it's not always climbing up a ladder. Sometimes it's moving sideways, and that is progress. Lateral moves can be more valuable than promotions. And I think this goes back to the idea of peace of mind. It goes back to the idea of people are going to take a 120K remote job over a 240K in-person job. And Janelle talks about treating your career like a product, not a title. She says, make your career a product. It's adapting, it's changing. Don't stick to one specific title. When multiple thought leaders who have lived experience, who think critically, independently, arrive at the same takeaway. When multiple cultures understand that fried dough is yummy, we have to recognize it for what it is. Convergence. That's the future. The future of work is knocking, and we're here. If you're watching this video, if you made it this far, we are here. We are locked in. Very Ghanaian of me. So let me go back to the Ananse analogy. So Ananse is so much in my bones. Ananse is how I learned how to public speak. It's how I learned how to navigate a few things. And mainly Ananse talks about survival when rules are rigid or when there's ambiguity. And it's always interesting because when something's super rigid or super ambiguous, you have to figure out how to navigate safely in those spaces. And Ananse doesn't climb Stairmasters. He creates webs. A spider creates multiple connection points, right? Multiple strands. When one strand breaks, the web still holds and the whole thing doesn't collapse. The spider adapts, it rebuilds, it expands. So if we translate this to your career, if we think about the ladder, if your career is a ladder and it's tied to one company, what happens when that ladder disappears? When the company restructures, or when the industry restructures, when the job title restructures and it's no longer there, when AI automates things. Without the ladder, you fall. However, if you were weaving, you would have a different story. Anna Mackenzie says it beautifully. She says you're at the center. She says you're the builder, you're the creator, you're the maker, not your job title. You are you. And then from the center, you're able to have radial strands. She talks about skills, all the skills that you accumulate throughout your experiences, your career, your schooling. Not just the resume ones, literally your whole lived experience. She talks about relationships, actual connections, reputation, what you're known for beyond your title. And now we're calling this more brand, your personal brand. We talk about income streams, plural income streams. In the body of work, every solution you've created. Because as I said earlier, Ananse is a problem solver. That's what Ananse has always been. And if you take this on, the web is designed to break and rebuild. The web is designed knowing that crisis is not a bug, it's a feature. I know what you're thinking. I'm exhausted. My nervous system is shot. I'm over it. And I get it. After my layoff, I was so burned out and over the system that I took a break. But as you know, bills are a thing. So I had to fix the strands of my web and come back into the workplace, and I re-entered it stronger and better. And here's exactly what I did and what you'll do as well. This is going to take maybe about 15 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, you're going to update one LinkedIn section, just your headline, showcase your value. And something I really want to point out here is that your company does not pay you enough to advertise for them. So unless you feel very strongly about something, your company should not be in your headline. The problems you solve should be in your headline. So update that. 2, your next 5 minutes, you're spending building relationships. You're weaving your relationship net, if you will. You're commenting on at least one industry post with your actual insight, your assertions about what you've learned, what you know. Show your expertise. Then your last 5 minutes, you're going to write 3 things you did today that are skills. What did you do today that are skills that you can showcase other folks? And the reason why this is important to do, especially if you're currently employed, is you're able to do this while you're getting paid. You're building on company time because they're looking to extract the maximum value from you anyway. So while you're in that space, use what you're learning and turn that into showcasing your brand. If you're currently not in a job and you're looking for a job, mind what you did before. and share that. Or if you were in this role right now, this is what you'd be doing. This is how you'd be using these AI tools to do it. What else could you do? Or whatever product or project you're currently working on, show that. But you always have skills to show. So put that out there for people. Because what happens is that people who have robust incomes and flexibility will have personal brands. And this is not saying you have to be an influencer, but it's saying you have to position yourself so people know what problems you solve and ask you to solve them. And not only ask you to solve them, but pay you to solve them. Once you're done with that 15 minutes, when you have a little bit more time, you can sit down with a beverage of choice. I would like you to also document one problem you solved this week. One of my favorite things to do is that after I work with a client, every time I finish a project, if I sit down and I do something, maybe open up my ChatGPT or Claude and I'll just talk through it and say this is what I did. Or if I used an LLM to actually do the work, then I would ask it to summarize it for me. What problem did I solve? How would the market value this? Questions like that. Because sometimes I know what I did was just valuable, but I don't know how I would necessarily explain that to other people who are not in this small circle that I'm in. So it helps me do that. I ask you to do that as well. Then connect with 3 people whose work interests you. It could be people in your current field. Maybe you want to go someplace else in your career. Who is interesting to you? Who are you curious about? Maybe it's the way they work. Maybe it's what they're working on. Connect with 3 people. And connection means engagement as well. It's not just clicking follow. Then create one piece of evidence of your expertise. Take some time to write out a LinkedIn post. Take some time to maybe even a Slack post, wherever you're comfortable, but something to show more visibility, whether it's internal or external. I recommend external, so that way you broadcast to everyone. And an example of this is I talk a lot about how I use AI at work. And I don't post a lot internally about it, but I do post a lot on LinkedIn. And because my coworkers saw it, they ended up giving me more AI opportunities at work, and that elevated my profile, etc., etc. So I think it's easier to do it on a place like LinkedIn because your coworkers are already there. So you're able to not only do the public branding, but also you're able to signal internally as well. So essentially, instead of climbing into more burnout, figure out what else you can do. To wrap this up, as you navigate through these ways to be more visible, also think about what actually feels good next. So is it moving up? Is it maybe moving laterally? Instead of climbing into more burnout, maybe look sideways. I know a client who made a lateral move, same level, different company, 30% raise, happier. It's not always about let's get the next title. Maybe you're staying in IC, but you're moving over to a company that gives you better culture. That could be an option. I know some of us think that you should want to climb. You should want to be more ambitious. And my leak wrote a Substack about this. And I think her article is very validating, and I've also learned that when your nervous system is in survival mode, your prefrontal cortex cannot function properly. You can't think strategically. You can't be creative. You're just surviving. So sometimes choosing the 120K remote job over the 240K in office is not leaving money on the table, if you will. It's actually buying back brain function. It's actually buying back life. And Janelle Abrahami calls ambition a volume down. I love the way she frames this. It's not a personality trait. It's a dial that you're turning sometimes up and sometimes down. Ambition doesn't have to be super high or super low your entire life. No, adjust it to where your life is at. Adjust, be a career minimalist. Do a lazy girl job. Choose flexibility. All these things aren't just trends. It's people adjusting to the new way of working. It's people going through the millennial crisis, going through the career crisis, going through the millennial career crisis. People realizing the game is the game. And you have to decide how you want to play it. You have to decide what winning looks like for you. If you're feeling your career doesn't make sense anymore, sit with that. Sometimes you might need a tweak, sometimes you might need an overhaul, but just sit with it. Because again, the crisis isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's your psyche saying this isn't working and it's time to evolve. The system that we were trained for, that we were trained in, doesn't exist anymore. It's terrifying, really, but it's also freedom. And it gives you the freedom to build something that works for you in your life. So take action from this. Please comment one strand of your web that has nothing to do with your job title. Just name it and tell me. If you haven't already answered the 120K remote or 240K in office, What do you think? I'm seeing a pattern and I want to hear your thoughts, so please share. And if you're going through a career change, if you're thinking about it, if you feel stuck, if you're looking for how do I navigate the future of work, that's what this channel is for. I am leaning into my roots of storytelling, of Ananse the spider, of strategy, of building something that lasts, building something that catches you, even when some strands fall. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to continue this, or reach out if you would like to work one-on-one.